Welcome back, everybody, to the video series on Part-Time Real Estate Coach. We're getting into the second step, really, which is skill set, and then getting into time on task. And I want to ask you, Hank, when you first start getting into coaching, you're talking about investing like 5 hours a week to start building this new and different income stream. What do you do with those 5 hours, and what are some of the very first skills that you might need to start building?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I believe that information's kind of become a commodity. So I'm going to encourage you to look up the book Prosperous Coach. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to kind of walk you through what to be doing. Yet let's look at this right here. The first 5 hours is all going to be spent on, okay, what do I need to know? So think about your first listing that you put in. The first listing that you put in probably took you the better part of a full day. Why? Because you didn't even know what you didn't know. Now, once you had put in 12 listings, you could end up putting a listing in probably less than 30 minutes. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
So here's what we're going to do along this journey is I'm going to recommend different books that will give you the information and do a lot of the heavy lifting outside of what Matt and I talk about. Yet information without implementation or knowing when to implement it or what to do at a certain time is where our skill set comes in. There isn't anything that you can't YouTube for free. What you're really paying for is implementation and proximity so that you can actually use that knowledge and put it into practice. And so when we look at the book Prosperous Coach, it does a lot of heavy lifting because you might say something like this, well, why would somebody pay me money for it? So the reality is you could probably teach somebody that was worth $1 a month. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, all day long. Yet $1 a month probably isn't going to be equitable enough for you.
Yeah.
Now, there's probably a pretty good chance that you're not going to charge someone $10,000 a month from the get-go. So what we got to do is we got to look at where are our limiting beliefs holding us back. So when we look at skill set is we got to say, okay, what is it that I'm missing? Well, you don't even know what you don't know right now. So we've got to jump in and get the skill set of knowing more about coaching, which reading a book like Prosperous Coach or Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. A lot of what we're going to be doing on the skill set end is just starting to explore getting more knowledge about the industry and about the craft.
Got it. Okay.
So you might be thinking, Matt or Hank, why are we sending them away from what we're doing right here? So can I give an example with coaching?
Yeah.
A lot of times in coaching, you're not going to have enough time with that person to do all the heavy lifting. So by referring a book, what's happening is you give prescription of a specific book. They go and digest, the 4 or 5 hours that it does. They now look at you as the spark that lit that on fire, that did the heavy lifting. So then as a coach, they come back and say, oh my gosh, that book was great, yada, 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 yada. Then they say, okay, here's my next problem. Well, again, you're not going to have enough time on task to do the heavy lifting. So then you recommend the next book. Information's a commodity. Putting it in the right sequence so that people can get from A to Z in the right sequence is where our skill set as a coach becomes more important. So it's not just being the answer man. Being an answer man doesn't make you a great coach. It's helping people self-discover and help them find the answers for their questions. When you're first starting out in coaching, there's other things that you could be doing, which is selling real estate that will make you more short-term income. And one of my business mentors said this, Excel spreadsheets ruin businesses because in the short term, you're going to be spending 80% of your time coaching to make 20% of the money that you could be making selling more real estate.
Right.
We know that selling more real estate isn't going to ultimately get you where you want to go, which is the lifestyle of having choices, meaning not working nights and weekends for the rest of your life, not doing this to your kid one more time. Hold on, I just need to have one more phone call as your kid saying, Daddy, how much do you make an hour just because I'd like you present for an hour?
Good Lord. Oh, man. Have you had your kids actually offer to buy an hour of your time?
No, you haven't. And you know why? Because I realized very early that this time was going to go by fast. And so a lot of times what we're doing is we're trading life today for life tomorrow. Right now, a lot of us are in the prime of our life and we're working it away. Our kids are growing up faster and it's for more money. Yet, what if you could get recurring income to take care of your family and you could actually enjoy the summers and not work your butt off? See, I believe that a lot of us are trying to make up for our incompetencies by making more money, when a lot of times what your kids want is more time.
Yeah, that is true.
But if you're always worried about 30, 60, 90 days out because you don't have any sense of certainty in that income stream, you never know when to let off the pedal. In coaching, if we can get your coaching income to whatever your expenses are, let's say it's $5,000 a month, and you no longer had to worry about taking care of food, shelter, and water, would that be worth 5 hours a week to not have to worry about whether or not you're going to be able to pay your bills the next month?
Yeah, that would be huge for the majority of agents, even top performers. I don't think most agents know what it's like to have recurring income and not feel like you're starting from ground zero every month and every year.
They don't, because here's what I can tell you: recurring income is a gift from the gods. I mean, when you know, when you know that on the first of the month, you're going to be making $5,000 or $10,000, it looks different. That client that's an asshole to you, you can tell them, hey, you know what? I'm not working with you. I remember one client when I was in phase one and I needed the money, he'd get off work and he would just use me as his whipping post. And then fast forward, he comes back and he goes, Hank, we'd like you to list our home. I'm like, fuck you. And he's like, what? I go, you're an asshole to me. I was like your whipping post. And he goes, you know what? I was getting berated at work and I took it out on you every single time that we saw you because you'd take it. Now think about that right there. When you're worried about income, you take shit. Yeah. When you have recurring income, you don't have to take it anymore, and you can stand up for yourself and raise your standards and have a different level of boundaries on who you're going to work with and who you're not. Because if you're doing something just because of the money associated with it, to me, that's the definition of a whore. Mm-hmm. Yet, if you have no certainty on when that next money is going to come, you never have the ability to actually start to raise your standards because you're worried about, oh, maybe I offend somebody, or I don't know when that next deal is coming, or maybe you just had 4 closings in a month and now you got no closing, so you put up with it. Yeah. Until you get recurring income into the equation, it's just going to be a constant roller coaster. Yeah.
Love it. I think that's a good place to end this
podcast.
Oh, we get it. A little bit. It's not too bad. Apple, I'm putting this on Apple. We don't have to mark it explicit. We're good. I think YouTube will be all right with this. So we're going to get into the next phase. I want to get into, you mentioned experimenting. So what does that look like? And we're going to talk a little bit about extreme time management, because I think probably most agents, especially, high achieving, top performer, rainmaker agents, are probably going, this all sounds great, but I can't carve out 5 hours a time. I'm like, I get it. I see the vision. I understand why I'd like to get there a few years from now, but I don't have the time right now. So I want to delve into that. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we get there? Is there any stories of people that you've had in your life that have kind of taken this path and conquered this transition point period?
Well, and let's look at this. You can't say that you don't have 5 hours. There's 24 hours in the day. And we're looking at 5 hours over the course of the week. If you're arguing that you don't have 5 hours, you probably need this more than you could ever begin to imagine. If you're saying that you don't have that, what we're looking at is time on task. Time on task will be talent every single time. So when we look at this, in the first year, you're probably going to spend 5 times 50. That's 250 hours. After 250 hours, we now have a math equation for your income. Here's the challenge with real estate agents. January 1st, they're starting over. There's so many people that were dependent on them doing their job in order for us to get paid. The other agent, who's ever dealt with that idiot agent where you end up doing their job also, because if you don't, there's a good chance you're not getting to the closing table. Yep. With coaching, after you put 250 hours in, we can now say, wow, we could ramp this up to 10 hours. We can be making $10,000 a month in recurring income. Mm-hmm. And if we're making recurring income, now we can look at making some headway in wealth or some leverage things where we're actually buying a business that we can sell. I don't know too many people that have ever sold their real estate business. I know a lot of people that have sold rental properties or other businesses. And it gives us an opportunity to get into some other investment vehicles that have leverage and scalability. Yet it's tough to do that when you're only as good as your next 90 days. Yeah.
Love it. All right. So if you guys want to watch the next video, there'll be a link around this video to watch it. Is on experimenting in extreme time management, which I know, Hank, you teach this at an extremely high level, the extreme time management stuff. Which, by the way, guys, if you want to go, there'll be a link as well to where you can go and grab just a call with either one of us if you want to talk about these sorts of things. If you have really detailed questions about what it would look like to take your business in this direction, you can reach out to either one of us. There'll be links there for to grab just time on our calendar to chat about that. So make sure to click one or both of those links. We'll see you on the next video on experimenting and extreme time management.